Part 8. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lanshan Luzi. Chapter 71. Bai Jianchun chuckled and said, "You also said it is the future, not the present. On the contrary, I think opening the portal to Muyuan Star now is the best choice, because we have just started, and there is no secret and nothing can make it happen. The only person they covet, and the only person they can covet and scheme against is me, the Star Master." There was a cold light in her dark eyes, and she said with a calm smile, "This way things will be easier, because I will never let people succeed in schemes, so Grandpa Chin doesn't have to worry at all. And the more upright this time, the more people come, the better. With so many pairs of eyes, even those little mice in the gutter who want to plot can't do anything in public. So I think what Grandpa Chin should be thinking about now is how to invite more people with higher status to come to our Muyuan planet to participate in this 20-day sightseeing and picking tour." It has to be said that after such a methodical analysis, Ye Qin was quite convinced and began to subconsciously think about how to recruit people. Was he going to post a travel advertisement on Xinhuang? Or should I contact old friends? Aunt Yes' perked ears twitched. Attracting people, isn't this her strong point? She immediately patted her chest and assured, "Star Master, Uncle Chin, don't worry, I have a lot of say in how you want to attract customers. I haven't been hanging around in vain these years. Not much else, just making connections. There are so many. When I let this news out, I'm sure many people will come to our Muyuan planet for sightseeing and picking." Bai Jianchun gave her an appreciative smile, "Then I'll trouble Aunt Ye." Aunt Ye immediately smiled and said cheerfully, "Anywhere, it's just a matter of effort." Then she rubbed her hands and looked at Bai Jianchun and asked, "What about my family's wedding on Muyuan planet?" Bai Jianchun's eyes flashed with a pure smile, "Yes, but it needs to be held within these 20 days, and there is also the issue of venue fees. After all, Aunt Ye, you are no longer a Muyuan star. The people are citizens, so holding a wedding on Muyuan planet is a waste of resources." Aunt Ye's mind is now filled with exciting thoughts such as, "I'm going to be famous, I'm going to be a celebrity, I can brag about this wedding for years, etc." The venue fee is not a problem at all. She waved her hand, said straightforwardly, "No problem, you should pay some venue fees. As long as my son's wedding can be held on Jupiter, I will be happy to pay any amount of star coins." Then Bai Jianchun stretched out her feet, preparing the lion to open its mouth. But the shrewd Aunt Ye here has quickly come to her senses. She realized that there was something wrong with her words, and quickly added, "I mean, I am happy to give out as many star coins as we can afford, but if it is too much, no, Star Master, you know that I have only been out of Muyuan Star for a few decades. Although I am already married, the Shui family is just a small fortune. In addition to preparing for this wedding, there are still many things needed for the wedding. It has to be transported over and over again, which costs a lot of money, so we definitely don't have much money left. Come on, let her say all the good and bad things by herself." But Bai Jianchun didn't expect to get much money out of her pocket. Besides, the purpose of this wedding is to attract traffic, not to earn venue fees. "It's time to eat, it's time to eat." The lid of the pot was banged, and a loud, rich voice shouted, reaching the ears of everyone in the village. Aunt Ye, who still wanted to talk about the specific venue fee, suddenly stopped. She rubbed her hungry stomach, glanced at Bai Jianchun, and said with an enthusiastic smile, "Star Master, Uncle Chin, how about we go first? After dinner, I will discuss it with my son and daughter-in-law. How about we discuss the cost issue in detail?" Bai Jianchun smelled the fragrance that passed into her nose and nodded in agreement, "Okay, let's eat first." Aunt Ye immediately beamed and ran towards the big pot of rice like a wild horse. With a smile on her face, she started shouting from a distance, "Daughter-in-law, daughter-in-law." Sheng Xiaoxiao, who was anxiously waiting for the news, and even the smell of the food could not attract her, Her eyes suddenly lit up, and she hurriedly came over to support Aunt Ye. Mother-in-law, please run slower, I'm here, don't run. Hey, I'm so happy that things are done. Aunt Ye happily grabbed her daughter-in-law's hands and couldn't wait to share with her. The Star Master has agreed to hold your wedding on Wuyuan planet, and the Star Master also plans to organize a 20-day sightseeing and picking trip to Jupiter. If your little sisters are in a hurry, you can also have them prepare to leave in advance. Sheng Xiaoxiao was so happy that she didn't bother to wipe her mother-in-law's hand with a handkerchief. She looked at her mother-in-law excitedly. Really, the Star Master really agreed. That can still be false. The star owner said it herself. She said that she especially welcomes people to come to Jupiter to experience picking activities. Aunt Ye's mind was still racing, and she approached Sheng Xiaoxiao and whispered, "Ask your little sisters to bring a few more large space buttons. There are so many fruits and vegetables on the Wuyuan planet. The harvest is here, and the Star Master has designated that everything must be sold. They must take this opportunity to buy more. There will be no such store after passing this village. In the future, they want to buy giant fruits and vegetables produced on Wuyuan planet. It's not that easy." I understand, Sheng Xiaoxiao understood immediately and nodded with gleaming eyes. The mother-in-law was thinking that now Wuyuan Star has just started and the transportation channel has not yet been opened, so she can take advantage of the opportunity to buy more. In the future, when the transportation channel is opened, they will have to grab it with the entire star. As for the gimmick of giant melons and fruits, everyone in the interstellar world will definitely pay for them, and when the time comes, they won't be able to grab them even if they want to. Now that they reminded her like this, not only did her little sisters owe her a favor, but it was also a favor from Wuyuan Star Master to sell the things as soon as possible. The mother-in-law and daughter-in-law looked at each other, tacitly changing the subject, and then started discussing wedding supplies. Fortunately, both families had almost prepared everything they needed for the wedding before they came, and even the location for the wedding was booked, waiting to be held after they returned from Wuyuan planet this time. But now that the location has been changed, the previously booked place must be returned, and the wedding items prepared must also be transported to Wuyuan planet. There were a lot of things to worry about. Although 20 days was long, it was still a bit tight. It took 10 days to get from the main planet to Jupiter. Most of the time was wasted on the road. They had to do it all at once. Bring the things here, otherwise it will be difficult to deal with if you leave something behind. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lanshan Luzi. Chapter 72. Today's big pot rice is scrambled eggs with tomatoes, stir-fried cauliflower, and a pot of braised rice. Although there are only 2 dishes, and there are very few eggs in the tomato scrambled eggs, only some egg foam can be seen, but the portion is sufficient. The 2 large pots are full, and it is more than enough for the 30 or so of them. Bai Jianchun and Yechin walked over, with 3 tails on their backs. As soon as the 5 of them entered the small courtyard, they were directed to get their meals at the big log table next to the 3 large pots. There are several plates of food that have been served on the table, unified into a large plate, with a layer of white rice on the bottom, covered with red steaming tomato, scrambled eggs and chopped green onion, and the other half of the plate is cut. The cauliflower is fried into small florets and is shiny and juicy. Half red and half white, dotted with emerald green, the alluring fragrance wafts up, which can really arouse the greed of everyone, especially everyone who is already very hungry at this time. Although there is no meat, everyone still has greedy eyes. Green light. At the table, there was a pretty girl, 15 or 16 years old, with a pale expression on her face, who was skillfully dividing the plates among the star citizens. Bai Jianchun walked over and lined up behind Yechin. Ye Yang and Du Le, the good brothers who walked in arm, also had a crack at this time. Both of them were arguing about the position behind Bai Jianchun and refused to give in to each other. Du Li looked warily at the sunny boy who had talked to him a lot along the way, trying to pretend to be pitiful. I've been hungry all night, can you give me this position first? Ya Yang also became alert and pulled Du Li, who was about to run away. No, what I care about is the food. What I care about is the position behind Sister Chun. Otherwise, you let me stand in front and I will get it when the time comes. I'll give you the food first. Du Li said without thinking. No. The two of them looked at each other for a long time, and electric sparks flashed in front of their eyes. They confirmed in their eyes that they were the people who wanted to steal the position of the number one younger brother next to the boss, Sister Chun. Leng Xiao glanced coldly at the two people who were still posing on the spot, and then with his outstanding long legs and excellent reflexes, he quickly passed the two people, grabbed the position, and lined up behind Bai Jianchun. Ya Yang immediately jumped up, pointed at Leng Xiao's back and shouted, Bing, you are despicable and shameless, and you dare to take advantage of my snipe and clam fight, so you can benefit. Du Li also looked at him with disdain. This young man looked at him coldly. He thought he was a decent person, but he didn't expect that he was also a thief who was stealing the thrones of his younger brothers and others. This three-person farce ended with Ya Yang quickly grabbing Leng Xiao's back and taking the lead, while Du Li, who was single and weak, ended up at the end of the queue. It also provided some entertainment for the star citizens who were standing or squatting around to eat with a basin, but, when did Yang Boy and Leng Boy become so familiar with the Star Lord? Who knows, these two boys didn't stay in the house last night. Their parents searched for them for a long time and thought they were stuck in the pile of plants and couldn't come back. Who would have thought that Lao Qin would take us to catch the stolen vegetables? Thief, these two boys are standing with the Star Master. Could it be that the two boys have taken a liking to the Star Lord's beauty and want to become flower protectors? The two old men were chatting and joking together, but these words fell exactly in the ears of the girl Mi Lan who was sharing the food. Bai Jianchun pinched one end of the plate and tried a little harder, but failed to take it smoothly. She raised her eyes suspiciously and looked at the girl holding the other end of the plate. But he saw that the girl's bright eyes were now dyed red, and she was glaring at her fiercely. There seemed to be a sea of blood and hatred in those eyes, and this hatred was directed at her. Bai Jianchun's face showed surprise, and she opened her mouth and said, You. The girl Mi Lan took the lead and yelled at her angrily, Don't seduce brother Yang and brother Xiao just because of your beauty. As soon as these words came out, the whole place fell silent. Huh, Bai Jianchun was stunned. She was really shocked this time. She seduced Ya Yang and Leng Xiao? What kind of shocking joke is this? Ya Yang and Leng Xiao, who were at the back, were also dumbfounded. What was this all about? Their sister Chun, the big devil, was seducing them. The two of them couldn't help but tremble when they thought of that scene. They didn't dare to think about it. Even if their sister Chun really seduced them, she would be seducing them into becoming drug testers. But what is this girl who lives alone all day long, with a face as cold as Leng Xiao's, going crazy today? A middle-aged woman who was serving rice, Ye Shangyun, Ya Yang's cheap mother, was stunned for a moment, and her face suddenly turned ugly. Then she quickly reacted and reached out to grab Mi Yan's shoulders and pull her away. Staggering back, what are you talking about? How could a beautiful girl like Star Master seduce my son and Leng Xiaozi? Mi Lan, please stop talking nonsense. After scolding the girl, she turned to Bai Jianchun with an apologetic face, and apologized with a flattering smile, I'm sorry, Star Master, this little girl Mi Lan was a little irritated before, so this I'm just talking nonsense now, Star Master, you have a lot, so don't argue with her. Bai Jianchun clenched the plate in her hand. The dishes on the plate were shaken a few times by Mi Yan's movements just now, and the cauliflower flowers on it were messed up. If she hadn't tightened her grip in time, the whole plate would have been spilled by now. She pursed her lips, raised her crow-feather black eyelashes slightly, and glanced at the middle-aged woman opposite with her dark eyes. She clearly said words of reprimand, but the woman's posture was to protect the girl Milan. In arms. Even though he was clearly apologizing to her, Bai Qianchun could still capture the deep defense and awe deep in her eyes. "It's okay," Bai Qianchun replied in a calm voice, looked away, straightened the plate, picked up the chopsticks, turned around and left the team. Leng Xiao, who came up behind him, frowned slightly, stared at Milan with some dissatisfaction, and said in a cold tone, "Sister Chun will not seduce us?" Ye Yang, who was behind him, also poked his head out and nodded with a smile, "That's right, Sister Chun, how can you seduce people?" "Milan, why do you think so?" Ye Xiangyun glared at her son with dissatisfaction, "This is none of your business. Don't get involved. Just get the food and go eat." Tiskia Yang was not very satisfied with his cheap mother's attitude, but when he saw her stern eyes, he could only pick up a plate on the table and follow Leng Xiao away. Du Le sensed that something was wrong. He shrunk like a quail and carefully walked to the table with his feet. He glanced at the rice-blue girl whose eyes were still red with surging hatred and clenched her fists, and hurriedly withdrawing his gaze, he quickly took a plate and walked away. "It's incredible. It seems that the piece that the boss said is not a complete piece. There is a girl who slipped through the net. But what kind of hatred does this girl have against the big boss?" You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lanshan Luzi. Chapter 73. Du Le was very puzzled. Bai Qianchun, who found a corner and sat down under a giant vine, was also puzzled. She doesn't remember any disputes with this girl named Milan? Could it be that it was the original person who committed the crime? This is not easy to handle. Her impression of the original Bai Qianchun only comes from the dream she had on the night she left the main star. What she knows is the fast-paced and rough plot like reading about characters in a novel. As for the original person, she didn't receive any memory at all. And in the dream, she couldn't find any relevant clues about Milan. At this time, Aunt Ye, who was quite considerate, led her daughter-in-law and sat down on the thick vine next to Bai Qianchun with a plate. "Star Master must be curious about why this girl Milan hates you so much, right?" She lowered her voice and leaned over, saying in a sneaky manner. Bai Qianchun swallowed the tomato in her mouth, turned her head to look at her, raised her eyebrows slightly, and asked in an unclear tone, "You know?" Aunt Ye nodded reservedly with her fat face, "I know a little bit. The incident involving Mi Ian's parents caused quite a stir on Wuyuan planet. Although I haven't come back in the past 30 years, I have heard about it." So under the hinting eyes of her daughter-in-law and the explicit gaze of Bai Qianchun, Aunt Ye didn't even care about the hot and fragrant food in her hands. She immediately became beaming and salivated as she told the two girls it tells a related story about two men and one woman, grudges and hatred. It is said that Mi Ian's biological mother, Lin Xian'er, was one of the most beautiful flowers on the Mu Yuan planet. When she was in her youth, her parents decided to marry Mi Hong, the most powerful person under the Star Master Zhenqiu at that time. The relationship between the two people has always been very good. Even though Lin Xian'er failed to give birth to a boy and a half girl to Mi Hong for more than 10 years, Mi Hong still treated her like jewels. The turning point of the matter occurred after Wang Ziyi became the Star Master. Wang Ziyi had been in charge of Mu Yuan Star for nearly 30 years. However, after the first 10 years, Wang Ziyi gradually became selfish and tyrannical, with corrupt conduct. He also madly targeted the former Star Master Zhenqiu. Of old genus, Mi Hong was the strongest person among Zhenqiu's old subordinates and a leader among the Star people, so Wang Ziyi targeted him first, and Mi Hong bore the brunt of everything. However, Mi Hong himself was powerful and had the support of the surrounding stars. Wang Ziyi deliberately targeted him, but every time he made a move, he just scratched his itch and had little effect. Wang Ziyi, who couldn't afford to lose, had no choice but to find another way until he met Mi Hong's wife Lin Xian'er and had a sinister idea in his heart, that is, to seduce her and make her betray Mi Hong. No man can endure his wife's betrayal. As long as he successfully cuckolds Mi Hong, it is equivalent to defeating Mi Hong. Lin Xian'er is a native of Muyuan. She has been well protected by her parents since she was a child, and her temperament is innocent. She was pursued by Wang Ziyi crazily and failed to hold on, and finally fell irresistibly. Waiting for Mi Hong when she discovered the clue, she had already fallen deeply in love with Wang Ziyi. No matter how Mi Hong tried to persuade Wang Ziyi to have evil intentions and a sinister nature, Lin Xian'er, who was in love and couldn't extricate herself, didn't believe him. Later, Lin Xian'er left her daughter who was just a few years old and ran away with Wang Ziyi. This move did what Wang Ziyi wanted, defeating Mi Hong and making Mi Hong, a strong and indomitable man, become decadent and fall to the altar. Since then the Star People have lost a strong leader, and Wang Ziyi's oppression of the Star People has become more and more successful. Mi Lan grew up in this environment, so she deeply hated her mother who abandoned her and her father, and even more hated Wang Ziyi who seduced her mother and shattered her happy family. She also hated this unfair world. Wang Ziyi, a man with bad moral character, became the Star Master of Muyuan Star due to a moment of good luck, so that she and her father could not touch him even if they wanted to take revenge. The most fatal blow to Mi Lan was 5 years ago. Due to her mother's request, her father became Wang Ziyi's bodyguard due to a moment of softness and escorted him on his trip. However, he encountered interstellar pirates on the road. After being robbed and died, her father was also buried in that disaster. There is still no news until now. There is a high probability that there is no body left. So, I guess just now, after Uncle Fang and the others said that those 2 boys became your escorts, that's why Miss Mi Lan reacted so badly when she heard that. She thought you were seducing those 2 boys. After all, for a star like you, the title of Lord is also one of her knots. After Aunt Ye finished telling the story, her analysis was very clear, and Bai Qianchun was quite convinced. If that's the case, it's understandable that the girl would have a bigger reaction, but she doesn't really like being angered. A dark light flashed in Bai Qianchun's eyes, and then she looked in the direction of the dining table and asked curiously, "What about the aunt next to Mi Lan? Who is she?" Aunt Ye took a mouthful of rice and followed her gaze. "Oh, her name is Yeshang Yun. I met her back then. She is a stubborn woman who is determined to leave Muyuan Star. At first, her mother was not from our Muyuan planet. She ran away after giving birth to her with the Star People on our Muyuan planet, leaving her alone with her father. But not long after, her father was gone, so she wants to go to the main star to find her mother. But she doesn't have much ability, and the Yeming she married is not a capable person, so she can only rely on having children to realize her dream of moving to the main star. Because of the constant wars in our empire, we strongly encourage having children. We have also introduced many systems to encourage childbirth. The more children you have, the better the benefits. For example, if you give birth to 5 children, you will be given a formal job. After giving birth to 10 children, she can move to a higher level planet. Our Jupiter planet is already a higher level planet, and the next higher is the main star of the Huayao Empire, so as long as she has 10 children, she can immigrate to the main planet as she wishes. Go find her mother. Yeshang Yun has given birth to 8 children now. The boy Yang who was following you just now is her child, the 6th. Aunt Ye said, with a disdainful tone, and made her own comments, but I don't like her very much. Although this woman can give birth, she doesn't care about giving birth or raising children. The first 5 children in their family are all her own, those who go out to work to support themselves, and the remaining 3 who are at home. I think it is Yang Xiaozi who takes on the responsibility of taking care of his younger siblings, and Uncle Qin, the grandfather, is taking care of them. As for the 2 fathers and mothers, they only care about them. Just eat and drink to keep them from starving to death, and don't care about anything else. Even her eldest son is 32 years old and has been paying single tax for several years. She doesn't know how to find a daughter-in-law or to work hard to conceive the child. Tisk, someone like me who loves children is treating her so badly. Such behavior is very distasteful. During PK, I will post it early. Today's update is not finished yet, to be continued. After the PK passes, I will set a fixed time to send it out together. I will notify you when the time comes. Thank you for your support. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lan Shan Lu Zy. Chapter 74. Baikan Chun's beautiful slender eyebrows frowned tightly, and a rich dark color appeared in the depths of her beautiful eyes. The members of their team were all orphans without fathers and mothers in their previous lives. After they formed a team and lived in Ziwutong, they became a family that depended on each other. She had long regarded Ye Yang Langxiao and other team members as relatives. In this life, since they can if they had the chance to have parents, she hoped that the parents they met would be good. She did not ask how capable their parents were, how much money they could earn, or how much prestige and power they had. She only asked them to truly love their children, so that the parental affection that Ye Yang Langxiao had never experienced in her previous life could be fulfilled in this life. But did Ye Yang meet such an unfit mother in his life? Her eyes were dark, and the black mud could not be suppressed in her heart. An uncontrollable glare flashed across her eyes when she looked at Ye Xiangyun. She has said that she has never been a good person. Only because of her bodhisattva-hearted elder sister and team members who are like family members, she is willing to put on a layer of human skin and walk the world as a normal person. If Ye Xiangyun dared to hurt Ye Yang in the name of her mother, she didn't know what she would lose control of and do. Sister Chun, Ye Yang said as usual. A cheerful voice came, interrupting the increasingly dark thoughts in her heart. Bai Chun came back to her senses, suppressed the emotions leaking in her eyes, and returned to her usual calm expression. The confused Aunt Ye next to her also breathed a sigh of relief subconsciously, chewing the food in her mouth. She always felt that something big had happened just now, and the food in her mouth no longer tasted good. Bai Chun calmly looked away from the side, then raised his eyes to look at Ye Yang, who was dragging Ye Qiang and Du Li over. Behind the 3 of them, Lang Xiao's cold face fell slowly. Face. What's wrong? She put the last bite of food into her mouth, then put down her chopsticks and asked, have you finished your meal? It's time to eat, it's time to eat. Ye Yang smiled brightly, nodded repeatedly, and then came over and said, Sister Chun, Du Li said that your Star Lord's mansion has become a dangerous building, and he plans to come to us. Do you live in the village? Bai Chun nodded, yes, that's the plan. It's like this. There are no empty stone houses in our village anymore, but we can build one again. Brother Ye Qiang has volunteered to build a stone house for you, Sister Chun. Ye Yang pulled a lean young man next to him, that is, Ye Qiang. Ye Qiang's face was similar to that of the lame uncle Ye Quan she had just met in the morning, and the kinship between them could be seen at a glance. He was staggered by Ye Yang's movements. After he stood up, he scratched his head in embarrassment and laughed. With the simplicity of a country farmer, he said dryly, well, Star Lord, I don't have anything good to offer in return. You just learn some construction-related skills from my father, and if the Star Master doesn't mind it, I'm willing to build a house for the Star Master. Ye Yang encouraged him from the side, yes, Uncle Quan is very good at construction. The stone houses in our village were all built by Uncle Quan and brother Ye Qiang. They are strong and beautiful, and even though they are sparrows inside, it has all the internal organs. Uncle Quan even built the Star-Lord's mansion with the construction team. Ye Qiang's expression suddenly changed. He glanced at Bai Qianchun, waved his hands quickly, and explained awkwardly, "No, no, my father only participated in the project of the Star-Lord's mansion in the early stage, but he was soon kicked out by Star-Lord Wang Ziyi." Bai Qianchun stared at his panic expression, narrowed her eyes thoughtfully. "Did your father discover that there was something wrong with the construction team that built the Star-Lord's mansion?" Ye Yang, who thought Ye Qiang was humble, immediately reacted. He opened his eyes wide and looked over curiously and asked, "What's going on? What's wrong with the construction team?" Ye Qiang also looked at Bai Qianchun curiously, and said with a dry smile that he managed to regain his composure, "The Star Master guessed right, my father did find something was wrong with that construction team. They passed it off as inferior quality, and used the excuse of new materials to deceive Wang Ziyi. My father reported them, but Wang Ziyi didn't believe them. Instead, he blamed my father for making false accusations against the construction team. In addition, the people from the construction team fanned the flames, so my father was kicked out by an angry Wang Ziyi who broke one of his legs." Bai Qianchun lowered her eyes and asked coldly, "Oh, it seems that the construction team is indeed not a good thing. Does your father still remember where this construction team came from?" Ye Qiang looked at her in surprise. "Of course I remember, it was the construction team of the Shen family of the empire. Wang Ziyi had a good relationship with a noble named Shenjike of the Shen family. This construction team was under the name of Shenjike. My father has mentioned this matter to me many times. What does Star Master want to do?" Bai Qianchun glanced at him, with a cold light in her dark eyes. "It's nothing serious, I just want to seek compensation from them." Oh, Ye Qiang's eyes suddenly brightened up on his honest face, but soon dimmed again. "But the nobleman named Shenjike should be dead. When Wang Ziyi encountered the disaster of interstellar pirates, he died. Zhong Shenjike was also on that starship." Bai Qianchun narrowed his eyes, showing a bit of displeasure. "If he dies, that will really give him an advantage." Ye Qiang nodded in agreement. He wanted to avenge his father, so he was very impressed by such a person. But now that everyone is dead, there is no way to avenge him. But the good news is that they died like a lamp. His father's knot in his heart was gone. Then does he have any sons, daughters, or anything left behind? Ye Qiang suddenly looked at the petite Star Master in front of him and swallowed. What do you want to do?" Bai Qianchun gave him a matter-of-fact look and said with a smile, "Of course the father's debt has been repaid by the son. The Empire's interstellar law has also formulated relevant regulations to approve this debt repayment deferment law." Ye Qiang, W. Suddenly, they discovered that their Star Master was not as delicate and soft as he looked on the outside. The filter of the good angel who treated him yesterday was broken. "Huh?" Bai Qianchun looked at him with a slight frown. "No? Or you don't know?" Ye Qiang took 2 breaths to come to his senses and nodded quickly. Yes, I remember he had a daughter named Xiang. Shenjike once brought her to Muyuan Star. I have met her twice. She is a very unruly aristocratic lady. Calculating her age, she should be an adult by now, old enough to repay her debts." He opened his mouth and blurted out the rest of the words. Ye Qiang covered his mouth in shock. He didn't expect that he had this idea subconsciously. On the contrary, Bai Qianchun looked at him with admiration. "Well, it seems that this person is not a rigid and simple farm boy. He can still be reformed. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs." Author, Lanshan Luzi. Chapter 75. Later, when Ye Qiang looked confused, Bai Qianchun made a request to see the house, and Ye Yang happily led her directly to Ye Qiang's house to see it. It is indeed as he said, that although the sparrow is small, it has all the internal organs. He and his father Yequan are the only two men living in Yechiang's family, but there is nothing missing in the stone house, with 3 bedrooms, 1 living room, 1 kitchen, and 1 bathroom. 2 bedrooms belong to Yechiang and his son, and 1 room has been turned into a study room by the father and son. The beautifully hollowed out and painted bookshelf leaning against the wall looks a bit plain, but it is unexpectedly beautiful and generous. The balcony in front of the window was also widened with marble, and a small platform was built against the wall, with a coffee table and small table placed on it. You can sit by the window, drink tea, and read a book. I have to say that these small details have been done particularly well by the father and son. Although this house does not look expensive, it is simple yet warm, rough yet delicate. It was fully revealed that the two father and son are not only skilled in construction, but also have great experience in decoration. Bai Qian-chun had an idea in her heart. I changed my mind. I won't build it in the village. This would be a waste of the talents of both of you, father and son. How about this, you just help me repair the Star Lord's mansion, and the reward I will give you is to help you father heal his leg. Cure my father's leg. Yechiang was surprised. He scratched his hair in confusion, but my father's lame leg was not seriously injured. It was just that the injury was a bit serious after it was interrupted, so it had to be amputated. A small leg bone, now his leg is considered a complete leg, it just looks a bit uneven when walking. Bai Qian-chun walked out of the house and smiled at him. What I mean is that I can make that person's legs even and become a normal person from now on. Yechiang was surprised and hesitant. Really? I took my father to the main star hospital. The doctor there said that if my father didn't want to be a cripple with uneven heights, he would have to cut off the other leg to become a dwarf. Bai Qian-chun was speechless. Obviously you don't want your father to be a dwarf. Yechiang scratched his head and smiled naively. Yes, my father insisted on standing high and breathing the air above. So the treatment I'm talking about is naturally not this plan. What I'm talking about is letting his leg that's missing a leg bone grow to be level with his long leg, not amputating his other leg. Can it really be done? What's the reward if it doesn't satisfy you? Yechiang's eyes roamed over her beautiful and delicate face, and what he saw was a calm and indifferent look, which made his trust level rise to 90%. He slapped his thigh and gritted his teeth and said, I believe it, this job let me do it. But my father still needs his consent. Can Star Master give us some time to discuss? Bai Qian-chun made a gesture of invitation, smiled lightly and said, okay. Yechiang was so happy that he felt like he had a propeller attached to his butt, and he immediately rushed out to find someone. Du Li looked on in shock. Can the boss's medical skills increase bones? Ye Yang and Leng Xiao stood aside watching the show with prophetic looks. They looked at Bai Qian-chun tacitly. No one knew better than them that their sister Chun's medical skills were amazing. Du Li, who came back to his senses, saw the expressions on their faces at a glance, especially Ye Yang's sunny and smiling face. His heart suddenly skipped a beat. He always felt that there was some kind of close connection between the two young men and the big boss that he didn't know about. Star Master, you are here outside the fence gate of Yechiang's house, Aunt Ye came with her son and daughter-in-law. Her big face was full of joy and she waved to Bai Qian-chun. Bai Qian-chun nodded slightly to her, and then walked towards her. Across the fence, Aunt Ye couldn't wait to tell her the reason for her visit. Star Lord, I have communicated with my son, daughter-in-law, and my family to use the resources of Muyuan Star to hold a wedding for our family. We are willing to pay for it. What do you think of the venue fee of 5 million star coins? Bai Qian-chun looked at her in surprise. She had not expected this amount. 5 million star coins was already the same price as the thank you fee given to her by Sheng Baining on the Sheng family starship. Is Aunt Ye so generous? Aunt Ye's chubby face turned red when she looked at her, and he hesitated. Actually, it's not just the venue fee. Although I don't live on Muyuan planet now, I was born on Wuyuan planet anyway, and I am now my hometown. It's sad, but it's only right that I contribute money to help. The most important thing is that when Wuyuan star develops in the future, I, Yelena, as one of the first batch of founders, will have a reputation that will last forever. I love these vanities. If I publish the history of Wuyuan star by then, Star Master, please don't forget to include my name and the wedding of my son and daughter-in-law. This is your first wedding after restarting Wuyuan star. No matter what, you will do it with honor and dignity, and you will also have arrangements in the future. It's a matter of the past. The more Aunt Yes spoke, the more confident she became, and she was in a better mood, as if she had already seen the glory of becoming a historical celebrity in the future. A smile couldn't help but appear in Baikin Chun's eyes. Some people like to say nice things but don't know how to do anything. Some people are stingy in what they say, but in fact they are thinking about it in their hearts and do it quietly. Aunt Ye is an interesting person. Okay, even if no book is published in the future, Aunt Ye's generous help will definitely be recorded in the history of Wuyuan planet. Aunt Ye's eyes widened with a smile and she laughed heartily. That's it? Now that the land fee has been discussed, I'm going to talk to my husband about bringing the wedding stuff here. Star Master, look at what you're doing. If there is anything missing on Jupiter, if we have time, we can help bring it over. Well, there is indeed something missing on Wuyuan planet. I will ask Du Le to make a list and send it to you later. This matter will trouble Aunt Ye. No trouble, no trouble, it's just a matter of convenience. Aunt Ye's breasts were raised high, and she looked so glorious that Sheng Xiaoxiao couldn't help but burst into laughter. After my mother-in-law returned to Wuyuan planet, she really regarded herself as a star citizen on Wuyuan planet. This sense of belonging was too strong. However, if the Star Master does not return this time, although the mother-in-law is here to show off her wealth, she actually also has the idea of helping the star people of Wuyuan. Originally, she planned to take a few star people who can't survive to make money outside. So even though her mother-in-law wears gold and silver and looks like a nouveau riche who wants people to snatch her, Sheng Xiaoxiao likes her because she has a good heart. Then the matter is settled. I will go over to work first. Their aunt is useless at all. She is so scared that she can even carry a corn, so she has to help me. Aunt Ye watched the villagers on the other side get back to work after eating. She hurriedly said goodbye to Bai Qianchun, muttering words of disgust, then took her son and daughter-in-law and left in a hurry. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lanshan Luziy. Chapter 76. Du Le watched from the side. Seeing that everything was over here, he felt happy and wanted to come over, but he didn't expect that as soon as Aunt Ye left, Yaqin quickly walked towards the side with his hands behind his back and a serious face. Come here. As a patrol guard on Wuyuan planet, Yaqin is in charge of the security issues on Wuyuan planet. Now the Star Master plans to open the door wide. Even if there is nothing good on Wuyuan planet that can be coveted, safety cannot be ignored. Therefore, as soon as he finished eating, he saw that the time was almost up and came to the door quickly, intending to continue talking with the Star Master about the safety measures on Jupiter, and how they should arrange food, clothing, housing, and transportation after the tourists arrived. Matters. Since they want to make quick money from sightseeing tours, they have to put up a good deal first, otherwise it will be too late for them to figure out how to make arrangements when people come. Moreover, it is the harvest season now, and the 20 days start from today, so all arrangements must be made quickly. Bai Qianchun also understood that after she made this decision, there was no need to delay the follow-up arrangements. The mealtime just now was already a buffer, and now she had to implement things as soon as possible. She thought for a moment, well, Grandpa Chin is right. Security issues cannot be ignored. We have to buy several defense systems and divide Jupiter into several picking areas for easier management. Well, there is also the issue of transportation. Wuyuanxing is not big or small, but it is obviously impossible to walk around the world and pick all the fruits and vegetables in 20 days, so we must have transportation tools. Grandpa Chin, do we still have flying cars on Wuyuan planet? Yachin grimaced and shook his head sadly. No, there is only the agricultural cultivator that you have been riding on before. In order to prevent the star citizens from running too far, Wang Ziyi could not find anyone to bully him, so he stayed on Wuyuan planet. A flight restriction rule was added to the system. For a long time, the flying cars of the star citizens had gathered dust at home. Later, Wang Ziyi died and Wuyuan star fell into silence. Everyone was too poor to open the door, so they sold everything they could, and the flying cars were returned. It's worth a few star coins, so it's the first thing everyone sells. Bai Qianchun also cursed Wang Ziyi in his heart. He really didn't do any good things. She frowned, rubbed her forehead and asked with bright eyes, then who did you sell the flying car to? A second-hand dealer from the planet next door who specializes in collecting flying cars. Can Grandpa Chin still contact them? I have limited funds, so I plan to buy a few second-hand speed cars to deal with emergencies. Yachin was very quick and nodded solemnly with a straight face. Okay, how many cars do you plan to buy, Star Master? About 20 cars are enough. The nobles from Aunt Yes' daughter-in-law will definitely bring their own speed cars. They probably won't look down on the speed cars we prepared. These 20 speed cars are only just in case. Waiting for this, the sightseeing tour has passed, and we star citizens can keep it for our own use. Yachin nodded and said that he would contact someone to send the flying car over as soon as possible. In this way, the travel problem is solved. What about housing? This is the most important thing. Bai Qianchun didn't panic and spoke out her plans. I plan to build a few elegant bamboo houses by the river bank. If they plan to stay overnight, they will live there. Then I will have to trouble Uncle Quan and the others to remove the running water from the bamboo houses, install the system. The bamboo house will take a lot of effort to build. Can we make it in time before people come? Yachin frowned, feeling a little worried. Bai Qianchun smiled easily and said, there's enough time. Bamboo houses are very convenient. I can build a row of them now. As she said this, she immediately led Yachin to the river bank outside the village. After Mu Yuan star revived, the original small stream now widened into a river. She had seen it before when she came from the Star Lord's mansion. It was a beautiful river with gurgling water and sparkling waves. Oh, by the way, there is one more thing I forgot. Bai Qianchun paused as she walked out of the fence gate, turned her head and looked behind her and followed closely. The three people who listened with great interest ordered, you don't have to follow. If you have time, go help me wash the medicinal materials. I wrapped them in sheets and left them at the village gate. When I come back later, I will start the furnace to refine the medicinal materials and prepare them as soon as possible. Yang nodded quickly like a chicken pecking at rice. I know, I know. Then he turned to look at Du Li, who was a step too late and was suffocating. He smiled brightly and innocently, I can wash it alone. Brother Du Li and Erbian will go and help the star citizens harvest a good harvest together. Leng Xiao glanced at him, then walked out with long legs, as if acquiescing to his assignment. Hey! Du Li stretched out Erkang's hand and saw that he could not stop him. In the end, under the gaze of Yang's smiling face, he had no choice but to follow him depressedly. Yang, who had won the first wave, made a yes sign on the spot, turned around, jumped up and down, and ran towards the entrance of the village happily. On this side, Bai Qianchun had already led Yachin to the river bank. Plants are overflowing and growing wildly on the Wuyuan planet, and this place is no exception. Even the washed-out rivers are filled with many aquatic organisms, as well as large tracts of lotus leaves. If it weren't for the brilliant blooming of the lotus flowers above, with large blooming petals, ordinary people would. It is easy to overlook that there is a river underneath this area of green. Bai Qianchun glanced at the river that was no longer distinguishable from the ground and had a lot of mud around it, and frowned. It seems that this river still needs to be rectified. Yaqin nodded, convinced, and analyzed from a safety perspective. This is not far from the village. It is easy for villagers to accidentally fall into the river when they come over. The bank lines on both sides of the river must be high. As he spoke, he bent down and picked off a small green bud from the giant green vine next to him, which had just poked its head out and had not had time to grow vigorously, and then solemnly moved it to the wet-dry line on the river bank. Inserted, followed by a flash of green light on his hand. The small green bud grew suddenly, and in a blink of an eye it grew into a giant green vine like its mother. Under Yaqin's control, it grew straight along the river bank and quickly spread to the right side of the river bank. As it goes, countless plants blocking the road are swept away by it. In an instant, countless plants were rustling, and the giant green vines were already winding for thousands of miles. The two of them could no longer see the end with their naked eyes. It occupied the boundary line of the river bank, completely separating the dry and wet land. Half of the giant vines were half buried in the soil, completely cutting off the river from the bank. With this move, Yaqin fully displayed his abilities as an SS-level wood-type superpower. It was probably due to his previous decline in realm that it made him more capable of controlling wood elements. Even as serious as Yaqin, when he saw that he was so successful, his eyes could not help but show a little emotion. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lanshan Luzi. Chapter 77. Bai Qianchun clapped his hands and praised, Grandpa Qin is the most powerful wood-type superpower I have seen in so many years, but only this giant vine is more than safe as a coastline, but not beautiful enough. As she said that, she turned around and looked around, and found it. She walked over and found a rose vine under a giant tree that accidentally fell here. Then she uprooted it and brought it to the river bank. The green light in her hands was injected into the rose vine, and its exposed roots immediately it penetrated deep into the earth, and then the thorns and vines grew rapidly. Although its vines have grown in size, they are still slender compared to the green giant vines. Bai Qianchun controlled it to climb up the giant green vine, and the bare green vine, as thick as a thick city wall, was instantly entangled with countless thorns, and the big white-pink roses followed quietly. Bloom. One flower after another, spring scenery blooms along the way, blooming with the wind. Yang's eyes widened when he came to look for water with the medicinal materials at this strange sight. The fragrance of flowers reaching the tip of his nose made the beating red heart in his chest become even more violent. At this moment, he also realized a reversal of his views on the wood power that he still disliked. It turns out that the wood power is not useless. If it is powerful and well controlled, he might be able to be like Sister Chun. Use it to look cool. Look at the river bank now, the breeze is blowing slowly, the river is sparkling, the floating green leaves are setting off the lotus, the river bank is covered with green vines, the roses are blooming, the fragrance of flowers is overflowing, it is quiet but bright in nature. The scenery unfolds before your eyes. As soon as he walked to the shore and saw the scenery, his heart calmed down. If such beautiful scenery had appeared in a previous life, people would have queued up to buy tickets at a price of 500 to 600 yuan. Not only to cultivate one's character, but also to cultivate one's sentiments is also very good. Bai Qianchun stood there and admired the scenery of the river bank, then squinted her eyes and thought for a while, in this case, it is not appropriate to build a bamboo house on the river bank. A tree house is more suitable. When Yaqin came back to his senses, a smile appeared on his wrinkled face. The Star Master is right, let's build a tree house. So under Bai Qianchun's control, Short but round trees stood up on the river bank. What was even more exquisite was that they were hollowed out in the middle, perfectly forming an independent room. After that, they just fill it with a large bed, cabinets, tables, chairs, etc. These are very simple for those with wood-type powers. Even Yang can control the wood-type powers to produce special cork to make large beds, and several can be made at one time. Yang, I never thought that building a house would be such a simple task. From a distance, the dwarf trees on the river bank look like big green mushrooms. To add a touch of color, the top of the mushroom house is dotted with small flowers. There are various varieties, including roses, winter jasmine, and morning glory. They can also identify mushroom houses by their flowers. Yang's eyes rolled rapidly, and there was a nostalgic color in his eyes. He was very familiar with this mushroom house. In their previous life, when they went out on missions, their sister Chun had shown them the magic of wood-type abilities in the wild. After 3 or 4 hours, roses were in full bloom on both sides of the river bank, and the scenery was full of scenery. More than 50 mushroom houses were neatly arranged along the river bank, proving that their labor was fruitful. Bai Qian-chun and Grandpa Yechin also have a good relationship with each other because they work together. Yechin's attitude towards her changed from a mild defensiveness and alienation to a hint of love towards Yang and other juniors, but it was more of an appreciation and recognition of his superiors. Of course, this is inseparable from Bai Qian-chun's deliberate performance. She wants to control Muiyuan Star as soon as possible and integrate into the Star people. Yechin is an excellent breakthrough point. Because Yechin is the bright leader among the Star people and has high prestige among the Star people. The most important thing is that he has expectations for Muiyuan Star, so he also has expectations for her as the Star owner. So as long as she shows her abilities and makes the right decision about Muiyuan Xing, Yechin will definitely support her. This is a clear plan. It wasn't until his powers were almost exhausted that Yechin, who felt that his aesthetics had improved to a higher level, followed Bai Qian-chun back to the village, ready to rest for a while before continuing to build a tree house. At the entrance of the village, Yang's eyes lit up as he was gathering soybeans with both hands. He quickly put the picked soybeans into a basket on the ground and shouted happily, "Sister Chun, I have prepared the medicinal materials. Are you ready to boil the pot?" Bai Qian-chun rubbed his throbbing temples, raised his hand and knocked on his forehead in a funny way. "This is called turning on the stove." Yang covered his forehead and pouted, "Our stove only has a pot, so of course it's called a boiling pot." Bai Qian-chun. Ignoring him, she turned to look at Yechin, who was aside, and said, "Grandpa Qin, I have something to do over there, so I can trouble you to tell everyone about Muiyuan Xing's next arrangements." Yechin nodded solemnly, "Well, you go ahead and leave the notification to me." Bai Qian-chun curled her lips and smiled, then took Yang, who kept muttering in her ear, and walked towards the village. "We borrowed the yard of Grandpa Miju's house. His house is on the edge of the village, in the leeward direction. It is difficult for the smell of medicine to blow into the village to avoid problems with the smell of medicine, so we built the stove there." Yang's cheerful voice came. One of the two was talking and leading the way, and the other was lazily and relaxedly walking behind. They seemed to have a pretty good relationship. Yechin looked at their backs and frowned with his thick eyebrows. When did Mr. Yang become so familiar with Star Master? Yeshangyun was sweating profusely and her face was red. At this time, she was walking to Yechin worriedly carrying a basket and subconsciously followed his gaze. Suddenly, she felt a thump in her heart. She turned back and glanced at Yechin, and said cautiously, "Father, wouldn't it be good for Xiao Yang and Star Master to get together? Star Master is so beautiful, how can he like our Xiao Yang? If the Star Master just wants to play with Xiao Yang casually, it will be so sad when Xiao Yang is abandoned." "What are you talking about?" Yechin shouted, glaring at her sternly, interrupting her, and reprimanded her with an ugly face, the two are just kids playing together, you all these dirty things are thinking about in my mind, are you such a mother-in-law? Ye Xiangyun was so frightened that she hurriedly looked back in fear. The last time her father-in-law was so angry was when the 5 children went out to work with the Lin family. Why did she get angry again this time? She felt miserable. And she was right. The Star Master was not reliable. She was worried. Where is my son? But Yaqin had always been dignified at home, so she didn't dare to refute. She could only lower her head, eyes twinkling, and said that she was wrong. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lanshan Luzi. Chapter 78. The yard of Mi Zhu's house is very large, and there are many medicinal herbs planted in the yard and under the walls. After experiencing the huge properties of Muyuan star, these medicinal herbs that have grown several times have surrounded most of his yard. The stone houses surrounding the center seem to be the lambs that strayed into this place. Bai Qianchun followed Ye Yang outside the courtyard gate and saw a short, fat, gray-haired old man in a white coat, jumping up and down in the courtyard to pick medicinal herbs with his back to them. His posture was really not very elegant. Grandpa Mizu Ye Yang shouted sweetly as soon as he pushed open the fence gate in the courtyard. The old man was so frightened that his hand slipped and he lost his accuracy and only pulled half of a white flower from the branch. "Oh, my lilac!" the old man wailed in pain, and his distressed short and fat body froze. 2 seconds later, he turned his head angrily, jumped on his feet and scolded Ye Yang, "You kid, pay for my lilacs, my best lilacs, the only thing missing from my yang boosting potion, the medicine is gone." He was angry, his eyes were wide-eyed, and his plump face without wrinkles was red and stained with sweat beads, like a peach that had just been soaked in water. I heard from Ye Yang that this old man, Mizu, grew very few vegetables in the whole village and his family was almost too poor to take the blame. However, with his rosy face, fair hair, face, and chubby face like a greedy cat, it was hard to tell that he was poor. Bai Qianchun even wondered if he was eating meat secretly at home. Ye Yang touched his nose in embarrassment and smiled coquettishly, "Well, Grandpa Mizu, I'm sorry. I'll pay attention next time. It's okay to waste one flower now. You see there are still many hanging on the branches. Lilac flowers are enough for you to prepare several bottles of yang boosting potions." The old man glared at him angrily, finally taking in what he said, and then turned around without saying a word and continued to pick his precious lilacs. Ye Yang was very used to this attitude of changing his face at any time and being indifferent. He explained in a low voice to Bai Qianchun, who followed behind him, "Grandpa Mizu is usually like this. He is obsessed with potions and can't help himself. He is a taciturn person who loves others. The grouchy old man who ignores you will lose his temper only if his potion is touched. But his temper comes and goes quickly. As long as we give him satisfactory compensation or a satisfactory explanation, he won't make it too difficult for us. This time, Leng Xiao and I used his yard. 2 herbs made him agree." Oh, Bai Qianchun nodded, indicating that he understood. Then she raised her eyes and glanced at the yard. Except for the sudden surge of herbs, Mi Zhu's yard was very neatly organized. There was a bluestone road in the middle, and a piece of soft pebbles was paved near the door of the stone house under the eaves. There are no traces of other weeds in the open area of the yard, which shows that he usually keeps his yard clean. The earthen stove that Leng Xiao built for her was in the center of the yard, on the right side of the bluestone road, in an open, dry mud field. A large iron pot still dripping with water has been placed on top, and a bundle of dry firewood is placed next to it. Bai Qianchun didn't rest. She walked directly to the stove and started rolling up her sleeves to make meatballs. "Ye Yang, you light the fire first, and I'll handle the medicinal materials you washed." "Okay," Ye Yang responded, and then he started to make a fire and start with the familiarity. At this time, Ye Yang had already put the cleaned medicinal materials on a round bamboo plaque to dry in the sun. Bai Jianchun picked up a piece of perilla leaf and began to skillfully inject wood elements into it. This was the most effective method she had figured out in her previous life. Methods for handling medicinal materials. The medicinal materials do not need to be processed. Their most powerful medicinal properties are directly stimulated through the wood element. Then, taking advantage of this opportunity, put different medicinal materials into the pot at different times and put them into boiling water for firing. The process of making pills may seem messy, even like a pot of random stew, but only Bai Jianchun knows that every step of her process was calculated through countless experiments, and she adopted the method that least harms all kinds of food. The medicinal properties of the medicinal materials but the perfect steps to blend them together. When the water is almost boiled and the juice begins to collect, you can then knead it into pills, which saves time and effort, is easy to carry, and can perfectly preserve the efficacy of the medicine. This is her unique technique, and ordinary people without her sensitivity to medicinal properties cannot prepare it. Of course, if other people want to make pills that she has already completed, there is nothing they can do. They only need to follow the process steps she gave, set the time and quantity, and follow the steps of a tool man, then they can also make some ordinary pills. However, although this method copied her pills, it could not innovate. The more precious pills such as the vitality pill could not be copied through step-by-step procedures. The reason why the vitality pill is a precious pill is that she cannot make it without her own hands. Therefore, the preciousness of the vitality pill has increased by several levels. But this only belonged to the previous life, when others did not have wood-type abilities. Because making the vitality pill also requires the cooperation of her wood-type abilities. Now that there are wood-type superpowers in this life, she doesn't know if anyone can copy the vitality pill. Bai Jianchun was thinking in her head, but her hand movements were not messy at all. She added the medicinal ingredients to the pot in an orderly manner, and then started stirring while waiting for the juice to collect. "Are you making poison?" A confused and somewhat decisive voice sounded from her ears, but Bai Jianchun was not surprised. When she started to put the medicinal ingredients into the pot, Mizu, the owner of the yard, had already come to her side, but he never made a sound and just stared at the pot with a keen eye. "Yes, we are indeed making poison," Bai Jianchun nodded. "I knew it." Mizu's chubby face lit up with joy, like a child begging for candy. He quickly calmed down and stared at the pills that had been formed. He leaned over and took a sniff, and then made a serious analysis. "You have a good grasp of the properties of the medicine, and you have almost used all the properties to the maximum. Combining them together again, the medicinal properties contained in a small black pill are actually more amazing than the potion. How did you do it?" The purely professional tone of the discussion prevented Bai Jianchun from detecting that he meant to pry, so she didn't feel disgusted and told him some techniques to use the medicinal properties. Unexpectedly, the old man was so shocked that he suddenly realized the idea, and then rushed back to the room to retreat while holding the lilac flowers. In the yard, Bai Jianchun and Ye Yang looked at each other in shock as they looked at the door that was slammed shut. After a while, Bai Jianchun said with emotion, "You are indeed a drug addict. If you were as addicted and serious as Grandpa Mizu, you might have realized it long ago, and you wouldn't be able to make even the simplest pills now." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lanshan Luzi. Chapter 79. Ye Yang snorted in dissatisfaction. "I'm not too busy to start learning from the basics. If you can't lay the basics well, you won't be able to continue to add to the superstructure. And my specialty is mechanism skills. I just need a professional like you, Sister Chun, to take the pills. I just need to know which pills are needed for which disease." Bai Jianchun glanced at him and cursed with a smile. That's unreasonable. But there is no machine art in this world anymore. Your major is no longer good. Have you considered learning other skills? Well, Yang scratched his hair and twisted his eyebrows into caterpillars. How about I learn how to make a flying car or a mecha starship? It's a bit similar to my machine skills but very different. Look. It's fun to go up there. Bai Qian-chun thought of the second-hand speed car she was about to buy at a huge price, and nodded in agreement. Well, then go and learn. I asked your grandfather to buy a second-hand speed car. You can also dismantle one and see how it works. If you want to major in systems, then go to the military academy. Depending on your age, you could have signed up last year. Yang giggled twice. I know this. Ping's mother is studying in the mecha manufacturing department. She also plans to send Ping to the military academy. However, Ping is not old. She is worried and plans to pass. 2 years, wait until Erbian reaches the age of 18 and then send him to take the exam. Bai Qian-chun nodded. It seemed that Erbiang's relatives in this world were pretty good. But then she frowned again, lowered her eyes and looked at Yang and asked, what about you? Your parents never mentioned sending you to a military academy. A trace of loneliness flashed in Yang's eyes. They really didn't have that plan. After all, there were many children at home, and they didn't have any money left to send us to the main star exam. Among my 5 brothers and sisters, only my eldest brother took the exam, but he didn't pass the exam. They also wasted a lot of star coins, so they didn't let the next few children of us go over the years. And it seems that my mother wants to have 2 more children and let us take the exam ourselves after we move to the main star. This will save the round-trip expenses. Bai Qian-chun frowned, her eyes deepened, and she shouted my mother with a certain skill. Does Yang have some sense of belonging and affection for this family? She asked tentatively, aren't you willing to give in? A bright smile appeared on Yang's face again, and he waved his hands with a smile. I can understand the difficulties at home. Although my father and mother are not that good, they are not that bad, and the brothers and sisters in the family are also very good. My eldest brother and second sister, third brother, fourth brother, and fifth brother also said that I am the smartest in the family, and they plan to save some travel expenses to send me to the main star to take the military academy exam. And Grandpa obviously doesn't favor any child, but he also told me privately that if I want to go, I will go with Erpai. He will take out the private money at the bottom of the box first. Lend it to me, and then return it when I become successful in the future. Yes, Bai Qian-chun nodded, feeling relieved. There was also a bit of relaxed smile in her eyes. Yang's life this year was not as bad as she thought. Hey, Sister Chun, are you finishing rubbing the poison balls? Do you want to rub the antidote? Yang suddenly stretched his neck and looked into the pot, and his usual cheerful voice sounded. Bai Qian felt even more relieved. Yes, take this opportunity to rub more. I plan to rub some other pills in the next 2 days. You can help me borrow this venue for a few more days. What pills are Sister Chun going to make? Although the star citizens are poor, their health is much better than the ordinary people we met in our previous lives, and they rarely get sick. These days, Sister Chun is busy preparing for the Muyuan star sightseeing trip. You can definitely move the pill thing to a later date, and it's not too late to do it again when you have some free time. No, that's not why I did it. What's that for? Yang was puzzled. Bai Qian-chun didn't stop moving her hands. She just took a deep breath and said with a heavy look on her face, because I still owe 400 million in taxes to the Interstellar Taxation Bureau. Yang took a breath and his eyes widened in surprise. So many. Well, as expected of our Sister Chun, she is so generous even if she is in arrears. Bai Qian-chun glanced at him speechlessly. It's all the taxes owed by Muyuan star before, and the former star owner, the one who killed Qian Dao, also left a year's worth of taxes unpaid. I just took over and met him. He is in a mess. If he is still alive, I will definitely let him be my poison tester, for life. Feeling this majestic murderous aura, Yang shook his body. Forget about the people testing the medicine. This was more frightening than a hard knife. He smiled coquettishly and quickly changed the subject. What about that? Sister Chun is planning to make pills and sell them. Bai Chun raised her eyebrows and looked at him with a knowing smile, and followed his words. Well, although relying on the fruits and vegetables on Wuyuan planet can earn some star coins to solve this urgent need, the subsequent construction of Wuyuan planet still needs more. A large amount of money has been put into it, so I plan to take the opportunity to promote my pills when Wuyuan star opens its doors and invites people to come in for sightseeing and picking. It's just that I haven't decided which pills to sell yet. I only have a general understanding of interstellar medicines, but I don't have a deep understanding of them. I don't know which medicines are the most scarce, the most cost-effective, and the most cost-effective to make quick money. Obviously the most important thing is the last one, make money. Yang slapped his thigh and said, this is not easy to handle. Sister Chun, you can ask Grandpa Mizu. Although Grandpa Mizu is a drug addict and has no ears to hear anything outside the window, he said that he has some knowledge about the popular medicines in the interstellar world now. He is the most familiar with it, so we can just follow the most popular ones and choose pills with better efficacy and sell them. Bai Chun said thoughtfully, what you said makes sense. I think I can also study this interstellar potion. Yang felt in his heart that Sister Chun's pills and acupuncture skills were more amazing, and the interstellar potion was just a scumbag compared to her, but out of modesty, he thought that maybe the potion also had something worthy of praise. So he asked, Sister Chun, are you planning to go to the medical department of the military academy? Bai Chun did not give an accurate answer, only said, I will understand it first this year. If necessary, I will go to the military academy to study specifically next year. Then her voice changed again as if she was chatting casually, but I want to learn the command system more. The family in my current body has left a legion. If I want to take over, I must be capable. When the time comes, with the support of this legion, we at Wuyuan planet can truly have peace of mind. Legion Yang couldn't help but look at Bai Chun with bright eyes and a flattering smile. Sister Chun, what is the background of your body? I became the richest man in the world by making meatballs. Author, Lanshan Luzi. Chapter 80. As he spoke, Yang couldn't help but mutter, why is there such a big gap between people? Urbian and I are just ordinary poor star citizens on Wuyuan planet, but you have an army. He was so envious that he was drooling with envy. Bai Chun sneered twice. Remembering that in the dream, the original owner Bai Chun was imprisoned in the Bai family and restricted from going out when she was a child. She grew up living a life where the food, drinks, and clothing were not even as good as the servants at home, and there was a dark glow in her eyes. But she didn't plan to tell Yang about this now. Although this guy was a heartless optimist, he would probably be furious if he found out about her matters. Bai Chun lowered her eyes, her long eyelashes covered up the undercurrent in her eyes, and smiled at him. There is really no comparison between people. I am still the Star Master of Wuyuan Star. You live in Wuyuan Star. Seeing thinks that Jinshu Lutai hasn't been chosen yet. Yang protested, we were not here yet when Wuyuan Star selected its Star Master. What hasn't come yet? The door of the stone house that had been closed tightly opened from the inside, and Miju's short and plump body walked out of the door. At this time, his face was rosy and he was smiling brightly. His chubby flesh looked very elastic. He was not at all like the usual taciturn and strange old man. He seemed to be in a very good mood. Yang made a sound like a duck being strangled by the neck, and quickly closed his mouth, smiling dryly. I am. His eyes were rolling around wildly, trying to find an explanation. Bai Chun raised his eyebrows slightly, but did not panic. He raised the corners of his mouth slowly, raised his eyes to look at Mizu, and asked in a more casual voice, "Did Grandpa Mizu prepare the yang boosting potion successfully?" This sentence directly touched the heart of the fat old man. He immediately put aside the casual question he just asked, his eyes lit up, and he nodded excitedly, "It's ready, it's ready. Thanks to the little trick you just mentioned about observing the concentration of the medicine, this is a successful preparation in one go. Little girl, are you interested in learning potions from me? Depending on your talent, you may become the chief pharmacist of the empire in the future." Bai Qianchun raised the corner of her mouth and asked with interest, "Are pharmacists divided into different levels?" Mizu came over with a bottle of medicine in his hand and said excitedly, "Of course, there are junior, intermediate, and senior pharmacists, and then there are first-class pharmacists and the chief pharmacist of the empire. First-class pharmacists, there can be many people, but there is always only one chief pharmacist. He is the symbol of the empire's pharmacists. The current chief pharmacist is the old president of the Pharmacy Association. He has invented many useful medicines that have been recognized by the empire. For example, the healing potion configured by the old president. Most of the light-type superpowers on the battlefield are mainly attacking, which is not very useful. The recuperation cabin takes a long time. The soldiers rely on it to sustain any minor injuries. The old president is indeed a role model for all of us pharmacists." Looking at his yearning tone, he looked like a fan of his younger brother. Bai Qianchun thought about the topic she had just discussed with Ye Yang, turned her eyes, and asked, "Then the most popular potions in the empire are all researched by the old president, why do I rarely see anyone using potions in daily life?" This is not because Bai Qianchun has little knowledge, but because she really feels that the pharmaceutical industry in the empire is sluggish. She has been on the Imperial Star Network for a year, and has almost never seen people in the empire discussing pharmaceuticals. Except for a few professional medical networks, there are also very few people who do mention potions. Mizu, who was originally full of passion, his whole face collapsed, as if he had been poked in a painful spot. His little eyes looked at Bai Qianchun with some sadness, and said half complainingly, "Because of the superpower, now the empire's superpowers, the awakening rate has increased. Almost 90% of the people in the empire are superpowers. Some minor injuries and ailments do not require medical treatment or medicine at all. The superpowers can be used and cultivated for a few days. Only those who cannot bear the suffering will be fine. Nobles will need treatment, but they will only choose to go to the Light Source Star Sacred Pool. The Holy Pool is indeed more effective than medicine. It can directly repair trauma and play a certain role in regulating the body. As for bigger injuries, such as broken arms and legs, excessive blood loss, and large wounds, medicine can only provide certain relief. Those injured patients despise this small effect and directly choose to go to the hospital or lie down in the recuperation cabin. Generally speaking, interstellar medicines can only treat minor ailments, but they are not very effective for major injuries. The people of the empire don't like them very much. For example, if you cut your finger, ordinary people would have to disinfect it and apply some medicine to prevent tetanus. But for those with strong bodies and their own supernatural powers to protect their bodies, they only need to activate their powers. That's fine if you can. Not to mention other powers, just say that the wood and light series of powers have both healing effects and self-protection mechanisms. If you drink the potion slower and the wound is almost healed, then you still want the potion to be of no use. Bai Qianchun listened to the fat old man muttering a lot of sad tears, and raised his eyebrows and concluded, "So the reason why the pharmaceutical industry is in recession now is because it is not powerful enough." Mizu was unconvinced, but looking at Bai Qianchun's eyes, she finally hummed and nodded reluctantly, "Yeah, but I'm taking another path now." The fat old man's eyes sparkled in vain, and his mood became excited again. "I have discovered the shortcomings of the medicines currently on the market in the empire. In the past, our pharmacist's research direction was all about treating external injuries, but there are also internal injuries. Although people with superpowers have small injuries on their hands, they are not afraid of it. But many people with superpowers will suffer sequelae after using their superpowers too much, such as muscle damage, blockage of the tendons, too thin tendons that affect the output of the superpower, damage to the superpower core, and poor power nuclear output, etc. Wait. People with superpowers will also have many problems, so I plan to treat the internal injuries of people with superpowers. This bottle of yang boosting potion that I have researched for more than a year is my first step towards treating superpowers. Zyobu, its main material is flame flower, which has extremely strong fire source power and can help fire-type superpowers who have problems with their superpower cores to recharge their superpower cores. It is also beneficial to drink it without any problems. It can strengthen the superpower of the fire superpower from the source and increase the storage space of the superpower core. In the future, if you encounter a fire superpower of the same level, the superpower energy will not be as much as stored by him. You can fight a protracted war of attrition and wear people to death. Bai Qianchun glanced at the fat old man who was spitting and passionate, and said with admiration in his twinkling eyes, "I think your research direction is very surprising. I can definitely look forward to innovative research in the future. The spirit is more admirable. But has the medicinal properties been confirmed? Has it been clinically tested?" The fat old man suddenly deflated like a balloon that had been punctured. His eyes were a little dodgy. Not yet, not yet. I just successfully configured it.